Welcome in to Palmetto Sports Daily Wednesday edition, and what a blessing it is to be back here talking sports with this wonderful crew. I'm Carmine Jumay here in Greenville, Kevin Bilodeau in Charleston, Rick Henry is in Columbia, and Teagan Brown in Myrtle Beach. And Kevin is overcoming the flu game right now, like Michael Jordan in the finals against the Utah Jazz, although I believe that was some faulty pizza, but Kevin actually has the flu. That's how committed to the program he is, and that program is Palmetto Sports Daily. But talking about another program, Clemson football, Dabo Swinney had a lot to say yesterday in Talking Tuesday, and the central focus of Talking Tuesday, because with the Gamecocks having the bye week, he was the only one talking as far as Clemson and Carolina. Let's just listen in to head coach Dabo Swinney here, and then we can respond on how he feels that college football has, quote, lost its way because of all the focus being on the college football playoff, now expanded to a dozen teams. Here's the coach.
And that's what college football used to be about, postseason and development and relationships and the pageantry. But again, not that that's still not there, but coaches are getting fired at an alarming rate because it's all about the playoff, and you have 136 teams for 12 spots. So something's got to give somewhere along the way. Because if you fire your coach every year because they don't get to the playoff or they don't win a national championship, you're going to have a hard time having a program. And we're fortunate here because I've been here a long time, and we have a program, we have a culture. We don't have cracks in our foundation here. Like this house right here is built on rock. There's no cracks in the foundation. Now, we got some people that ain't put their best stuff in it. Like, we gotta be better, and I got to make sure we get the right people in the house, in all aspects of it. But this thing's built right. It's built to last. There's no doubt about it.
Some interesting things to unpack there, guys, as far as people who have gotten in who maybe haven't put their best foot forward, and other people he wants to bring in the future. Now, Dabo in this press conference also said he makes a policy of not making any coaching changes during the season as far as firings or replacements and that kind of thing, other than his interim season when he made a lot of changes right off the bat, including the offensive coordinator. So that's an interesting storyline to follow for the offseason. But as far as what he said here, Kevin, your thoughts on the college football playoff, focus on that causing college football to lose its way. And I personally think actually it's gone back in a better format with the 12 teams because so many more teams are competitive. And I know Dabo missing the playoff this year has a lot of bearing on what he's saying in his opinion in this case. But what do you think on the focus on the CFP causing college football to go in a different direction?
Yeah, I was going to say it's funny how the playoff is now a problem when he's not going to make it to the playoff this year after squeaking in last year by winning the ACC title game. I mean, the sport is in a place where it's probably never been more popular than it is right now. It is just a notch below the NFL as far as the most popular sports we have in the country. So I understand why Dabo is kind of reluctant to want to get on board with the way things are moving at this point, but this is the way it's going, and this is as much of a Dabo issue as it is a college football issue, because Dabo's issue is that he needs to adapt to the way things are now. If he's sitting here hoping that things are going to revert back to the way they were 10 years ago, it's just not going to happen, and he's going to fall farther and farther behind, and the Clemson program is going to fall farther and farther behind as he holds on to that, hope going forward. So, Rick, it's up to him, but if he wants to get this program back to being a national championship contender, then he's going to have to adapt.
You're right, Kevin. Remember, Dabo famously said when they started paying players, it would be time for him to find something else to do. He's been reluctant to get into the transfer portal. And one thing that has evened up the competition in big boy college football, the transfer portal and NIL. And it's not the playoffs. The playoffs just brings more excitement, and it gives more teams hope during the season that, especially for the fans, that your guys can make it to the playoffs and contend for a national championship. And so, yeah, we're seeing coaches being fired at an alarming rate, like Dabo said. But this is not going to change anytime soon. It's the new era of college football. Teagan?
Yeah, Rick, I agree with you. I mean, For me, the playoffs are not the issue here. That's not why the sport is changing or quote unquote losing its way. NIL has just over the past 5 years become the major reason and the only reason pretty much that a lot of these players are changing schools. You can talk about, they say, oh, I didn't do what I wanted to at this program. We didn't get to the championship or to the playoffs or any of that. But there are players that go to 4 different programs or 5 different programs just looking for the next big paycheck because they look at those big schools and they look at what they can offer. So, yeah, Dabo has to adapt to that. If he doesn't like it, he can be like Nick Saban and say that he left at the correct time, as all of that was going on. But if Dabo wants to stay, then I think he's got to adapt, Carmine.
Yeah, and we've seen a lot of those transfers, or I should say a few of those transfers, the few that he has taken, look really good. I mean, look at Will Held, the defensive end, out there looking like the statue of David, sacking these quarterbacks, getting a lot of pressure after 2 years of starting every single game at Purdue. He's coming in contributing. Tristan Smith, now especially with Bryant Wesco Jr. unfortunately out for the season at wide receiver, and he's coming in from the junior college ranks and contributing and looking good. So I think dipping back into the transfer portal even more, continuing to adapt, and just roll with the current times. And Clemson can't offer as much NIL-wise as some of these other schools, so that culture can contribute to bringing guys in, but you also have to bring in, especially this year with the secondary, with all these busted coverages, that'd be a place to look. And then Cade Klubnik's on the out at quarterback as far as, a senior. So is Christopher Vizina the answer, or is the transfer portal there an option too? That would really be jumping into the transfer portal. But, hey, speaking of those offenses, the Gamecocks making a change as far as play caller.
Yeah, this is a bye week for South Carolina, so Shane Beamer didn't have his normal weekly press conference, so we didn't have a chance to ask him about, hey, who's going to take over the play calling duties since you fired offensive coordinator Mike Shula? Well, he gave an answer today on the SEC coaches teleconference. Mike Furry is going to be the play caller for the remainder of the regular season. Furry is the Gamecocks wide receivers coach and passing game coordinator. There he is. He was hired in 2024. Now, here's what Beamer said on the teleconference. I wouldn't say that we have an OC for the rest of the season. We have a really talented offensive staff that each and every week, as we always do, the offensive staff will work together as they've been doing to put together the game plan. And then on game day, the primary play caller will be Mike Furry. And he'll just be the main guy that's talking to the quarterback and communicating the play to him on game day. So Furry, a lot of folks in state remember him from his days when he coached at Limestone. He had 2 different 2-year stints there. In between, he was on the Chicago Bears staff, and he also had a pretty good 7-year NFL career. And he's done a good job this season developing some of the freshman wide receivers like Donovan Murph, Jaden Sellers, and Brian Rowe. They're seeing the field. But now we'll see what happens with him calling the plays. And I'm sure you're going to have Sean Elliott working with him as well and putting together that game plan. Carmine?
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I don't know if this is the answer or what the play calling is going to be different. I mean, maybe it's good for experience for next season. Kevin, what do you think about this move? Because it's just disappointing to see where the offense is right now.
Yeah, I would say the options are limited for Shane Beamer as far as who is going to call the plays if he wasn't going to do it himself. The thing that I'm kind of curious about going forward is how stretched thin is this offensive staff going to be? If you have Mike Fury coaching the wide receivers still, in addition to being the main play caller, plus, like you mentioned, Rick, you've got Sean Elliott, who's in charge of the run game, and now he's also coaching the offensive line as well. It seems like guys are leaving and other guys are just kind of taking on more responsibility, which I don't know if that's the best thing for them. I mean, maybe it is. Maybe it's better if you just, shrink the circle a little bit, and it's just a couple of guys being in charge of this. But I'm curious to see how aggressive he's going to be. I know the big thing that I've been seeing is that Carolina fans are upset about just too many basic runs up the middle. I'd kind of get a kick, Teagan, if Fury just in this first play next week against Texas A&M, if just called a run right up the middle and just watch everyone go berserk.
Yeah, I mean, if we were to see the same kind of things that we've seen all season since, Mike Shula was there and everything, I would be disappointed too. I don't know if him taking on all these responsibilities together is going to equal out to be a good thing. I know something had to be done, but how it'll turn out is still yet to be determined, Rick.
Yeah, and as far as the coaching staff being spread thin, you have these graduate assistant coaches that help out. When Sean Elliott was here the first time and he was named interim head coach, Travell Wharton took over a lot of the offensive line duties, a former Gamecock offensive lineman and a former Carolina Panther NFL lineman. Okay, that's going to wrap it up for the opening segment of Palmetto Sports Daily. We'll be right back. We got a lot more to talk about with college football and college basketball.
Welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. The Chanticleers finally look like they have some consistency in the season after a little bit of a mindset turnaround. I can't even count the amount of times we heard Tim Beck say, we're going back to the drawing board. We're going back to the drawing board. We need to start over. We need to change things. And, they did, and it seemed to work out. They're on a 3-game winning streak. They just got a big win over Marshall last Thursday night. They were known as the Chanticleers last week with all of their Halloween decor and their glow-in-the-dark jerseys. Yeah, I don't know if you guys watched Sports Center this weekend, but they were on there and everything, the jerseys. So, yeah, a lot of hype around that game. And they've got homecoming coming up this weekend. They're playing Georgia State. And now the Panthers are 1-7. Coastal has 5 wins on the year. Of course, a win this weekend would mean bowl game eligibility. But a lot of what Tim Beck talked about this morning in his weekly press conference was, just because they're 1-7, we can't discount them. We're not going to count them out because of that. And, I mean, if I'm looking back at last season, Coastal lost to a 1-7 Troy team, and everybody thought they were going to win that one as well. So here's head coach Tim Beck talking about the Panthers and getting ready for them.
They're a good football team, and I know their record doesn't show it, but, I mean, they played arguably 3 teams in the college football playoff. Memphis and Ole Miss are in. Vanderbilt is right up there as well. So, and James Madison, they're knocking on the door. So I think that was their first 4 games. That's murderer's row for anybody. On a quarterback, they've started to create their identity. They're getting better as a football team because they had some quarterback, musical chairs as well. So, and they've had 10 days off. So I'm sure they're going to be fresh-legged and excited to play a game. So our preparation hasn't been any different than what we do. We've done the same things that we've been doing for the last 4 to 5 weeks in terms right down to the minute of how we practice and what we practice, when we practice, all of that. So it's working. Why change it?
Yeah, Coach Beck is all about keeping that schedule, keeping that consistency, and it should be a pretty good environment for them this weekend. He talked about limiting the distractions, as much as they love the crowd in Teal Nation, just not letting the big crowds get to them. Samari Collier, of course, the starting quarterback still at this point in the season as we kind of finish out the musical chairs of quarterbacks and get some consistency. So, Kevin, what do you think of the Chants' chances this weekend against a 1-7 Georgia State team?
For what they're going to do going forward, because if this is the team that's kind of found the rhythm like it seems like they have, then they go into this game and they win by 3 or 4 touchdowns and they take care of business and nothing gets in their way going forward. So that's what I'd like to see from Coastal going into this game. I'm not sure if that's what we're going to get, but that's what I'm hoping to see, Carmine.
That would be great, and what a difference that just a few weeks in the college football season can make, because you look at the Coastal team trying to find some answers a few weeks ago, and then they get on this little win streak, and then they go in the glow-in-the-dark jerseys on a Thursday night with medieval times at halftime, then they go on Sports Center, and now everything's great. And of all the teams in South Carolina, Coastal's the closest to making a bowl game, apparently, Rick.
Well, let's not forget about the South Carolina State Bulldogs. They are in great position to make it back to the Celebration Bowl in Atlanta for the second straight year as the champions of the Mideastern Athletic Conference. SC State, they're 6-3, undefeated in conference play at 4-0, and they play their final home game this weekend. They'll be entertaining the Howard Bison. Now, the Bulldogs learned a valuable lesson last week against Morgan State. They were leading by 23 points going into the fourth quarter, 33-10. But then what seemed like a cruise to an easy win, all of a sudden they were struggling for survival. They were outscored in the fourth quarter 20-3. They hung on to win 36-30. Head coach Chenisberry says the emphasis this week is fighting until the end.
Our emphasis this week is DEF, discipline, execution, and finish. So whether we're doing every break we have, it's going to be finish. When we run sprints out to practice, when that whistle blow, you're going to hear finish. All right, you're going to hear all those things all week. Our guys understand the urgency of now. That's no opportunity wasted, and it also means no other way. N-O-W. No opportunity wasted and no other way, and that's going to be the right way to do all we can do to secure victory and try to accomplish the mission and go 1-0.
So, Teagan, what do you think the chances are the Bulldogs will be taking it easy in the fourth quarter this week?
You know, after hearing Chenisberry talk that way, I feel motivated enough to run through a wall, so I really hope that his team does and that they put everything they can out there in the fourth quarter. I mean, I think that he's one of the most charismatic, motivating coaches I've ever heard in his press conferences, Kevin.
Yeah, the problem is you can't have two sayings out of the same word. You can't have both with N-O. Like, this is there's got to be a line you draw somewhere, Coach. You have one saying for one word. You got to come up with a different word if you want more sayings. But I know that's going to be tough for him because it seems like he's got 17 out of just that one word. But Carmine, he's got to pick one and go with that going forward.
Or he could use the Shane Beamer and just as well. And that could combine. Maybe Chenisberry needs to just adopt the Shane Beamer, use his one phrase, then have the as well in the middle, then the second phrase, Rick. That could solve all the problems right there. And a coach's collaboration, too, at the same time.
Well, I tell you what, Kevin. I'll tell Coach Berry what you said, and maybe the next time you see him, he'll take it up with you. And we'll get a decision. All right, that's going to wrap it up for this segment of Palmetto Sports Daily. Oh, I can't.
And welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. We move over to the NFL where the Red Hot Panthers back at home in Charlotte this weekend as they play host to the New Orleans Saints in a division rival game for Carolina. Now, the news coming out of Charlotte today is that running back Rico Dowdle, who's been just amazing over the course of the last month on the ground for Carolina. He did not practice today, had I believe it was a groin injury that he's dealing with. Dave Canales saying that they're just taking it as a precaution right now. Still seems like Dowdle's going to be ready to go this Sunday against New Orleans. But Carmine, it looks like it's a good thing that Carolina held on to Chuba Hubbard at the trade deadline yesterday. And, you know, if something does appear to be wrong with Dowdle going forward, they've got a serviceable backup right behind him.
Yeah, that's a great point, Kevin, because Rico Dowdle assumed the classic bell cow running back, 25 carries, 130 rushing yards. He's clearly taken that lead back role, but like you said, in that backfield, Chuba's a great option. And I don't believe Rico got injured on his post-touchdown celebration after his second touchdown. Thankfully, the unsportsmanlike penalty didn't come back to bite the Panthers, and they were still able to pull off one of the biggest upsets in the past couple seasons as 13-point underdogs against the Packers, able to win that game. Here is Coach Dave Canales talking about the penalty that Rico received with a reference to where he got the celebration from, Key and Peele.
Yeah, and was your understanding that 2 pumps was allowed or could on the penalty that Rico took?
Oh, yeah. We got to be smarter in that situation. You know, we got to make sure that we understand the rules. might have to call up Keegan Michael Key and make sure I get some clarification on that part of it. But from what I understand, it's any kind of movement that way, any weapons or all that stuff's going to get flagged. We got to be smarter about that.
Appreciate it.
So a nice moment from Dave Canales, showing some personality that we don't usually get to see. He's pretty buttoned up. And now with the winning going on, Rick, able to get that personality out there. And his reference to the skit from Key and Peele by Keegan Michael Key when he played Hingle McCringleberry, where the rule, as far as the celebration, was in order. No official rule by the NFL, but great to see the team celebrating Rick and having a lighthearted moment there.
Yeah, but he's supposed to get 2 pumps. 3 pumps is when they throw the flag on you, right? Oh, well.
Unofficially,
we've got one more segment to go.
Yes.
I love.
Yeah.
I love that.
I
Was
just
a question
wanted that
was
clarification.
asked in an NFL press conference.
And welcome back to Palmetto Sports Daily. Right now we're going to talk some college basketball. This is opening week for college hoops. And the Gamecock men coming off that disastrous season last year where they only won 2 SEC games. They open up against North Carolina A&T, and they defeated the Aggies 91-72. And head coach Lamont Paris told us during the preseason that they'd be shooting some threes and really putting it up, and they did. They made 14 threes last night, 2 of them by that guy we just saw, Michi Johnson, who transferred back to South Carolina. He was with South Carolina, transferred back to Ohio State, and now he's back here. And he wanted to come back here because he had a tough year. I believe he had there was a death in his family, and he suffered some depression, had to have counseling. But he feels right at home. Here he is talking about the warm ovation he received from the fans when he was introduced.
I give all glory to God, my Lord and Savior, because I never thought I'd be back in this position. When I heard him call my name, all I could think about is all the stuff I went through this past year. And to be able to run out there, and play for this crowd, these fans, this city again, it was everything that I feel like I dreamed of last night. So this is a great time to be back in here with everybody. It was just a great time. I'm glad we got the win.
I thought it was critical to have him back into the fold for us this year, and it was a very important step in assembling this group.
So a good start for the Gamecock men. Last year they lost their season opener. This year they win it, so maybe that's an omen of some good things to come. And that's going to do it for this edition of Palmetto Sports Daily. Have a good evening. We'll see you tomorrow.